Sai, Karate Illuminati, this is Noah, and today we're going to be discussing the training tool behind me here, which is the Kakiya or Kakete-Biki. This version is improvised as opposed to a purpose-built Kakiya or Kakete-Biki, but it features very much the same components. With a purpose-built Kakiya or Kakete-Biki, you're going to have a post acting as the body of the training dummy, and you're going to have an arm that generally goes through the middle of that, pinned in place so that it hinges. Traditionally, the back side of that arm, as a counterweight, would be a stone tied to it. Now we have options of things like springs and elastic bands and such that allow us to attach them to the back of that arm in both directions, up and down, so that instead of only having resistance when you press down on the arm, you also can get resistance when you press up on the arm. With something like this improvised version, I'm using an elastic bungee cord to attach it to a tree. It could have been a fence post or a support column on a front porch, any number of things. It's very easy to set up. And because of the way that it's set up, it's actually more mobile than the purpose-built ones, because the purpose-built ones generally stay in exactly one place, and while the arm might have some wiggle room side to side, that's about all you're going to get. Whereas with this, because it's simply strapped to a tree or a post, it can be pushed all the way around. So again, with a purpose-built Kakiya, you're going to be able to press up with resistance and down with resistance. You'll be able to push side to side, but it'll only move a little bit, depending on how it's been built. Because of the way that this is attached, I can actually move it all the way around the tree, which is something that you don't get from a purpose-built Kakiya. Of course, the downside to this is that I don't have the same degree of resistance that I would with a purpose-built Kakiya, because there is no resistance being added to the back side of the arm. It is merely resistance from being attached to the post. As with most drills, you're going to start fairly statically, and it's easy to work a lot of your parry-pass types of drills, even just your basic ukewaza. But eventually you are going to add movement to it. Typically when we start training with this, the movement we're going to focus on is forward. And there's a few reasons for that. One, most self-defense situations, which is what karate is designed for, happen at very close range, which means we need to get comfortable at being at that range. The other reason is that a lot of the time when you're attacked, the punches are coming in from a wide kind of haymaker angle, and it's always going to be safer to either be all the way out of range or very close, so that you're not in the sort of target area of those techniques. So you may start stationary, and then you'll add forward movement, and you'll be pushing the arm out of the way as you step in. And this can be done with other techniques as well, not just a parry pass, but that's a simple example. Now, that's not the only movement that we can incorporate. Typically, we'll start there, and then we start to work at angles as well. So rather than just coming straight forward, I can come in to an angle and get more to the side of the post, which gives me different options for my techniques. This is still starting from a relatively stationary position. That is an excellent way to start, because with self-defense, most often, you're not going to be doing a lot of feinting, moving around, and that sort of thing, because if you had the range to do that, you would be running away, right? However, it's still a good skill to develop, being able to move around a target and then incorporate limb control as part of that. And if you're working your karate for sport fighting, especially with MMA, this becomes very helpful as well. Much like a heavy bag that you can move around it because it doesn't move. Of course, a heavy bag swings, but it doesn't move in the way that a person does. We'll move around this. So we can be working in different techniques the way that we would with a heavy bag or a partner, And then as part of this, we can periodically incorporate limb control. So it's something where you slowly add components to the training method. Now, while a Kakiya or Kakete-Biki is not strictly necessary for karate training, it is something that's incredibly useful for those who don't always have access to partners, because it gives you something that will emulate a limb and a body. You can actually attach more than one limb as well and get two going so that you can work multiple aspects of limb control. This is something that's really helpful in between classes, in between training sessions with partners, so that you have something that allows you to actually train with tactile feedback. If you were training with a heavy bag or a makiwara, things like that, you can definitely work your striking in and you can work your movement, but you cannot really work the limb control aspects unless you attach a limb. Now you can attach a limb, just like I've done to this tree, to a heavy bag to incorporate that and be more comfortable with striking into a surface with power. But either way, that limb component of a Kakiya or Kakete-Biki is something that adds a vast array of tools to what you can practice by yourself.